Please do not post in the chat until I can get my posts up at the top. It'll be a minute or two, so please don't post in the chat till I get my posts up, which will be a minute or two. Hold on a minute, it's not going to be a long wait. I got to wait for it to register here. Not yet. Let's see. There we go. Okay, we got sound and picture. Just hold on posting in the chat for a moment or two. I'll give you the okay. Just give me a minute or two. Almost done. Almost there, guys. Okay. Feel free to post in the chat now. I've got it all up there. The camera's moving around. It's supposed to follow me or something. I don't know, but it doesn't. It usually works better now. It's not working too good. I don't know what's wrong with it. There it goes. Maybe it's settling down. Okay, so I'm Moshe. Today is April 10th. It's 9:41 in the morning here in Israel, and it's raining again. It's not just raining, it's like pouring. And it's supposed to stop in a couple of hours, maybe even sooner. And let me check the other weather. I don't think we're scheduled for rain tomorrow. I'll tell you in a minute. It's just crazy. I saw a winter like this. I believe it was 1993. It was much like this. By sometime in the afternoon, the rain will be gone. It may be gone as early as 2:30 or something. Tomorrow we're in for a 23% chance of rain, which is maybe. And then Friday, 8%. And then we have a very low chance of rain for probably about 10 days. So it's it's going to go away. And woe unto our roof. We can't do anything with the roof. It first has to stop raining, and then you got to talk to the guy that wants to do the rain, and he checks the weather because he doesn't want to get all messed up with it either. So it's, I don't know. We got to wait. It's really a large amount of rain, I'll tell you that. You know, it's not normal to see it like this. I'm afraid what's going to happen when the rain stops, we're going to just flip right into heavy hot summer quickly. I don't want that, but the best time of year to live here is in the fall and the summer. And if you catch it, if the Lord gives it to us, we could get 6 to 10 weeks of spring and 6 to 10 weeks of fall, but that's not exactly common. To see it go into summer in 2, 3, 4 weeks is not unusual either. So I don't know what's going on, but I know the crops are thriving from this. They get a good drenching of a couple of days of rain, and then they get some bright sunlight, and it really works on them. I left one of my good chairs outside last night, not understanding it was going to rain, or forgetting to take it in. I think I forgot to take it in. It was late at night, and it's drenched, so it'll dry. It dries out in 1 or 2 hours. It's just a thin nylon or some synthetic. It's like a beach chair, and it'll dry 1 or 2 hours of sun. It'll be bone dry, and it's hard on the dogs, you know. So anyway, enough of my woes. Being a Bible believing site, I'm going to do some praise. If you're a true believer in Yeshua HaMashiach and you want to join in, it's up to you. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay. So what I want to cover today is I want to show you with current events and also the Bible prophecies that we really are on the path to Jeremiah 30:11, which I'll read quickly to you. And let me see if I could fix this stupid camera going crazy every time I move my hand. I might be able to solve it. Let me see. See if I could change this. Maybe I fixed it, maybe I didn't. We'll find out. Okay. I might have fixed it. All right, I gotta make this a little different. Okay. Well, it's not moving around anymore, so that's good. All right. So, Jeremiah 30, verse 11, which is tied to the birth pangs, by the way, and the birth of a nation in a day, which is not 1948. I mean, I've covered that a gazillion times. It says, "For I am with thee, saith Jehovah, to save thee. Though I make a full end of all nations, whither I have scattered thee, yet will I not make a full end of thee, but I will correct thee in measure and will not leave thee altogether unpunished." Now, this is associated with Jacob's trouble, and the scripture that talks about Jacob's trouble is a few verses up, I think verse 7. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Now, this is a confusing part to understand. Ezekiel 34 shows us the bad shepherds being cut off, along with the rich, proud people in Israel. And that's because they're working with the unclean spirits, and that's why they're rich, and that's why they're in control. Now, that doesn't appear to be what happens in Zechariah 12 because they're already gone. So they're probably, although maybe not so, but likely so, cut off dead before the siege around Judah and Jerusalem in Zechariah 12. Okay? Because they're not present in this situation. And they certainly would be opposing Eliyahu, Elijah, who is there. And Apostle John is there, the two witnesses burning up the enemies on the right hand and the left. So the soldiers aren't there as an army, although individuals might be, and the government isn't there. This democracy thing, this Netanyahu Knesset thing is not present anymore. So they're not long for this world anymore. That's because you see there's two yokes on Israel. One is the yoke of the government on Israel with the high taxes, the oppressive laws, and the bullying of the people, and this kind of thing, and imposing anti-Torah practices, real Torah practices and policies on the people, and letting the rabbis have participation in the government and tormenting the people who are not following their Talmud extra biblical book and all of this stuff. So they're gone, okay? And you get a good hint of Elijah or Eliyahu, his real name, getting rid of them in Malachi 3, okay? Which more than likely precedes Zechariah 12, and having the tabernacle and or the temple before then would also precede Zechariah 12, I believe, because they get such a great victory. It appears to be that the blessings of the law are in place. And your hint on this is Malachi 3, we'll go through verse 1 quickly. Behold, I will send my messenger, that's Elijah, and he shall prepare the way before me. Elijah's going to be with Apostle John preparing the way for Yeshua to return to earth for quite a number of years. About 70. That's the second 70 of Daniel 9:27. It does not say 70 weeks. Every single Hebrew manuscript I ever saw says Daniel 9:24, Shavim, Shavim. There's no breaking from this. And Shavim is the Hebrew word for 70. So it says 70, 70. So it's two 70s. The first 70, we know. It's 70 years Babylonian captivity. The second 70 is the same. It also is 70 years. It's not weeks. It's not sabbatical years. It's not Yovel or Jubilee years. It's years. The Hebrew calendar year is 360 days, not 365. That's Pope Gregory's Gregorian calendar, which is not relevant to the Bible. The way before me, and the Lord Adonai, whom you seek, shall suddenly come to his temple. Well, the temple's there first. And if you want to read of him coming to the temple, all you have to do is read Ezekiel chapter 43. Even the messenger of the covenant, now we're back to Elijah, who the Israelites feel will teach them Torah, true Torah, whom you delight in, and that's because they set a place setting for him at every Pesach, Passover Seder. They give him a plate, knife, fork, spoon, a chair. Many times they put his name on the chair, and they pour him a glass of wine, and if it's safe enough, they leave the door open to the house. They also, now he does not come to all the Passover Seders, that's mythological lying, they tell the people. And they also tell the people that he attends the bar mitzvah the circumcision of every Jewish boy on the 8th day. And that, of course, is not true either. Believe me, take it from me, it's not true. Uh, whom you delight in, behold, he shall come, saith the Lord of hosts. But who may abide the day of his coming, and who shall stand when he appeareth, when he's working openly? For he is like a refiner's fire, and like a fuller's soap. Well, that's a strong indication that the bad ones are going to come around and harass him and bother him, and they may try to arrest him or throw him out of Israel or whatever, and he gets rid of them. He can call plagues on them, he can burn them up. Okay? The word, it doesn't mean that they have to try to kill him to get burned up. They just need to harass him and contradict him, harass him, try to downplay his teachings and stuff like that. And that's enough for him to do it. So they don't have, they will try to make his life miserable, and they're not going to have a lot of time. They'll be short-lived doing that. So then we go to verse 3, and he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. He shall purify the sons of Levi and purge them as gold and silver, and they may offer unto Jehovah an offering in righteousness. Then shall the offering of Judah and Jerusalem be pleasant unto Jehovah, as in the days of old, as in the former years. And I will come near to you to judgment, and I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers, the adulterers, the false swearers, against those that oppress the hireling in his wages, the widow, the fatherless, and that turn aside the stranger from his right, and fear not me, saith Jehovah. So, saith Jehovah of hosts, of armies. So, he gets rid of them. Okay, and the two witnesses are probably the tool he uses, like he used Moses and Aaron against Egypt, And it appears that the government is gone at the time of Zechariah 12. So you're going to see some radical stuff pretty quickly, okay? The year of recompenses started on or around August 1st, 2023, give or take 2 or 3 days, one way or the other. I don't remember the exact date, unfortunately, but it was right around August 1, 2023, and we're in April now. So you got May, June, July. You got about 3.5 months, roughly, for the end of the year of recompenses. I could be a few days off there. And that will be... this would pretty much have to fit in there. So the Lord's patience is wearing very thin with this. Okay? So Elijah and Apostle John will be operating as the judges of Israel. And this is found in Isaiah 1. Maybe 26. Yeah. We'll go to verse 24. Isaiah 1:24. Therefore saith Adonai, Jehovah of armies, the mighty one of Israel, I will ease me of mine adversaries and avenge me of mine enemies. Now, you must understand Iran fits in here. Iran is funding and giving weapons to and managing and administering and dictating to Muslim terrorist militia groups in Iraq and Syria, the Houthis in Yemen, the Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad in Gaza. the Hezbollah in Lebanon and others, I'm sure. Okay? So Iran's going to go. That'll come up a lot more as I go on. And I will turn my hand upon thee. Now that's usually a good thing. And purely purge away thy dross and take away all thy tin. Well, Elijah, we just read in Malachi 3 doing that. And I will restore thy judges as at the first, and thy counselors as at the beginning. Afterward thou shalt be called the city of righteousness, the faithful city. Zion shall be redeemed with judgment. No, there's going to be judgment on the bad ones. The ones that are serving the unclean spirits and the evil ones that may not be serving the unclean spirits. And her converts with righteousness. And the word for righteousness is tzedakah. All right, so I will restore thy judges as at the first. Well, that was Moses and Aaron, who were also prophets. So to be a judge, you're normally going to be a prophet. And Revelation 11 tells us the two witnesses are prophets. And we see them burning up the enemies surrounding Jerusalem, laying siege to it, Jerusalem and Judah. They get burned up. And who do you know has fire coming out of their mouth? And then they're also going to have the 70 counselors. We're not going to have a democracy, and we're not going to have any kind of crazy secular world government or anything like that. We're not going to have a national monetary fund or a Federal Reserve Bank that makes money out of thin air that you got to pay interest for. You know, why doesn't the government of America just print money itself, and then they wouldn't have to pay interest? Because it's a scam. You can't find out who owns the Federal Reserve. People own it. They must be multi-trillionaires. They get all this interest revenue. They have very low expenses compared to the amount of money they take in. The IRS is basically their collection arm. And they don't, by law, they don't even have to pay taxes on the money they take. So they have a constitutional tax immunity. And they make more money than probably any, if you took the whole fortune, well, you know, they have these lists of the best stock companies. They have a list of 100 or something, the Dow Jones or whatever. They probably make more money than all the companies in the Dow Jones average combined. And they pay no taxes. Now, if you think that's constitutional, I don't know how to help you. But the American Constitution doesn't seem to at all ever, by implication or directness, imply that this type of thing could be constitutional. It's a scam. Okay? And you can't even find out who owns it. Nobody knows. Years ago, we knew when they started it in 1913, they also started the IRS right about the same time as the collection arm. Before 1913, they didn't have this. They had gold and silver money. When you have gold and silver money, you don't have recession and inflation. Now, you could have drought that would cause food shortages, which would make prices rise. You could have war, which would cause all kinds of problems. But even in war, a 1 ounce gold coin is still a 1 ounce gold coin. A 1 ounce silver coin is a 1 ounce silver coin. If the country gets destroyed, your money has still got the same worth. With the paper money backed by nothing, when your country gets destroyed, you have nothing. Satan is a cruel master. Now, sure, the rich probably accumulate gold and silver to, play their little game, it's not going to work. They're playing with God and it won't work. Okay? So, Biden has been influencing the right-wing churchgoers of America to turn against Israel, and he's doing a reasonably good job of that. They always had a propensity to turn against Israel. Now, not all the churches have turned against Israel, and not all the people have turned against Israel in America or in other countries around the world, but they don't do anything for Israel. I have never seen one denomination, I think there's 3,500 of them, come out and make an official statement for Israel. Never once did I see it. Never once did I see them stand up for the Messianic Jews being allowed to come into Israel, which the government doesn't want them here. Never once did they do anything. Like they could have come up with all kinds of ideas. They did nothing. Are these denominations urging their people to sign petitions and send them to the White House to get Biden to help Israel? Absolutely not. They sit around and they hold an Israeli flag up, which is the Star of Rephaim. It's a bad thing. It's a joke. And then they pray to God in front of the Star of Reference, which is an evil, demonic thing, for Israel. What do they pray for Israel? I don't have any idea. Do you think God hears the prayers of the churches? I don't. Aside from that, nothing gets done for Israel. So their support is relatively of no effect. Okay? Hang on a second, I gotta get out of this thing. I got my Bible, my e-sword put me in some stupid section here that I'm unfamiliar with, and I don't know how to get out of it. It gotta be a way to get out of it. I got out of it. Okay. So there's all kinds of talk now about Iran attacking Israel with a swarm of missiles and a swarm of drones to cause much destruction. I said, and I repeat, I do not believe Iran has missiles that can reach us from Israel, let alone with any accuracy. Give me a second, I'll be right back. I do not believe that, and I think I know what I'm talking about. Now, they say they do, but they lie about everything. Um, so this Notam, they put up for about 3 days starting this morning, means they don't want any commercial private aircraft flying over Iran. And the thought behind that they said is they're going to be conducting missile tests. And they don't want to have to be concerned about taking down a commercial airliner or some cargo plane by mistake. So the media is running with a frenzy saying that this is a front, and what Iran really is going to do is launch a barrage of drones and missiles at Israel and really damage Israel in retaliation for us bombing the consulate in Damascus some days ago. As best as I can tell, they have no missiles that can do this. They have to fire the missiles from Syria. Maybe there's a piece of Iraq they could reach Israel, but Iraq's not too keen on doing this because the retaliation from Israel will be severe. Syria has not much choice. Bashar Assad is suffering from large attacks from Muslim militia groups in Syria that are opposed to him. And they recently killed a bunch of IRGC soldiers in Syria. So if Bashar Assad doesn't have Iran helping him, he's scared. And Russia is unreliable because of their problem with NATO and Ukraine. America's not in love with Bashar Assad either, so he kind of needs Iran. Now, we read in Jeremiah 50, verse 24, that the daughter of Babylon, which is America, is put in a snare by Jehovah. Now, Biden is working the snare, but he doesn't know it. Biden is trying to get rid of Netanyahu. He tried to get Gantz to work with him to do it. Gantz didn't do it. The reason Gantz didn't do it, I believe, is number one, he may be unsure that he could defeat Netanyahu in a vote of no confidence. Number two, the concessions he would have to make to Biden to get support would probably preempt many political parties in Israel from participating in his government. Thus, his attempt to overthrow Netanyahu via a vote of no confidence would fail. He's not the same evil, dark, sinister character as Netanyahu, and he's not going to tell these people to join his coalition and lie about what Biden wants him to do, and then turn around and stab his supporters in the back and hope for the best, like Netanyahu. Netanyahu is a mean, evil, sinister character that has, I mean, he's worse than a narcissist. He's like got a heart after Satan. Okay, that's what he's like. So he is scared of Biden and worried, and he knows Biden is not his friend, and Biden knows Netanyahu's not his friend. Biden knows Trump is his friend. Netanyahu knows Trump is his friend, and he could work with Trump, and Trump knows he could work with Netanyahu, but Trump's not in office, and I don't believe prophetic time will allow for that to ever happen. So I don't focus on Trump too much. I do mention him because if Biden does take a turn against Israel, which Bible shows us he will, and I'm going to try to put together how that will come to pass for you. If Biden does that, Trump will be on television and social media talking about how Biden stabbed in the back America's best ally and the only democracy in the Middle East, and how the world's going to go to hell in a handbasket based on Biden. And Biden and Trump both believe the polls are real because they both believe there will be an election, and Biden will be nervous about this. So will Biden turn against America? Absolutely, no doubt about it. You're seeing the beginning of it now. But will he completely turn? Let's talk about this. If Iran does unload a large amount of ordnance, drones, and missiles on us from Syria, or let's play along, or from Iraq, or even Iran, you better believe that Israel will attack Iran, home country. They're not going to go play games with embassies and stuff like that. They're going to go after Iran, and they're going to cause much damage and destruction in Iran. So what Iran would want to have happen at the same time is a big attack from Hezbollah and a big attack from Hamas. And probably, if they could muster it up, some attacks out of Syria from the Iraq and Syrian Muslim terrorist militia groups. The Houthis may add in also, but there's precious little they can do right now. So that would get Iran going. Iran doesn't get along with Egypt, and I doubt that Egypt's going to make any deals with Iran. Jordan is afraid of Iran, but right now the king of Jordan is not, bowing down to Iran. So that's probably the full scope of it. But Israel has told Iran, and Iran knows that if you keep trying to attack us, like what Iran's saying, oh, we're giving weapons and money to people that are trying to wipe you off the face of the earth. How dare you attack us for that? Well, Israel's saying, what are you, a moron? We're not under your spell. We're attacking you. And now the message is clear that if they attack Israel, Israel may attack them on the home front. So does Iran really want to see this? See, where you have to go to get your answers is you have to go to the coalition of evil well, they're all evil, but, this coalition of evil would be at the top tier, China and Russia. And the next tier is North Korea and Iran. And the third tier are groups like the Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah, PIJ, and, Al-Fatah, and all these kind of characters. And they're the pawns, the throwaways that they don't care about. Now, Russia and China are the kingpins of this. They have the big militaries. The idea here is to destroy the United States. That's what Russia and China want. If the United States is destroyed, China can easily hit Taiwan and Japan, and North Korea hits South Korea. Russia and Belarus start hitting Poland, Finland, Latvia, Lithuania, whatever. And it just goes on a big war campaign. So right now, what's happening in the world is the nations are gearing up for Jeremiah 30, verse 11, the destruction of all the nations that the Lord scattered the Israelites to, I would assume, over the history of time, thousands of years. And that brings you to something like 100 or 125 countries. It's all of North America, South America, Central America, Caribbean islands, everything in Europe, much of the Middle East, a little bit of Africa, or some of Africa anyway, and it could very well be that you're also covering China, North Korea, South Korea, Japan, and Taiwan. This could also be the case that they're lost tribes. Satan is behind this whole effort. What Satan wants as a short-term goal is Jerusalem and New Jerusalem be given to the Muslim states or the UN or America or anybody who hates Jehovah and Yeshua HaMashiach, and they set it up as a shared territory for the Catholics, for the Muslims, Catholics and Christians, the Muslims, and the Jews. So there would be further abominations in the form of shrines mounted in Jerusalem near the temple, and Israel would have no control over it. And they also want to strip the West Bank from Israel. And East Jerusalem, the actual site of the temple where the Dome of the Rock is and all that, is actually in East Jerusalem, which is actually in part of the West Bank. Okay, and that's where they want to get Israel. So, is Iran really going to step out of character and attack Israel directly without using its proxies? I doubt it, but it could happen. I could be wrong. It might happen. In the past, what they've done is they've used Hezbollah, the Houthis and Hamas and the militia groups in Iraq and Syria to do their dirty work for them. But they might step out and try it themselves this time. Now, what will the United States do? Well, probably the worst thing for the United States. Biden is probably going to be weighing it on the right hand and the left hand what to do, and he's going to realize that if he doesn't step forward and help Israel from an an Iranian war, it's going to go bad for him at the polls. People are going to remember what he did in Afghanistan when he just pulled out on them, and the Taliban got tons of weapons from them. People have not forgotten that. And now they're going to see he did it to Israel. He turned his back on Israel. And the nations in the world aren't going to trust America anymore. Now, Israel's going to have to suffer, okay? But the elect and the remnant, whoever you want to call them, aren't going to have to suffer. They'll get scared if they're not believers. God is never going to deliver Israel and let them get the land back and have peace through the efforts of this evil government in Israel and their military. read some scriptures. Jeremiah 5. Run you to and fro through the streets of Jerusalem, and see now, and know, and seek. In the broad places thereof you can find a man, if there be any that executeth judgment, that seeketh the truth, I will pardon. Not many in Israel. And though they say the Lord liveth, surely they shall swear falsely. O Lord, are not thine eyes upon the truth? Thou hast stricken them, but they have not grieved. Thou hast consumed them, but they have refused to receive correction. They have made their faces harder than a rock. They have refused to return to the Lord, not the land. Therefore I said, surely these are poor, they are foolish, for they know not the way of Jehovah, nor the judgment of their Elohim, their God. I will get me unto the great men, and will speak unto them, for they have known the way of Jehovah, and the judgment of their God, but these have altogether broken the yoke and burst the bonds. Might be speaking of the two witnesses, the strong. I'm not entirely sure what this particular passage means. Wherefore, a lion out of the forest shall slay them, and a wolf of the evenings shall spoil them. A leopard shall watch over their cities, and every one that goeth out thence shall be torn in pieces, because their transgressions are many, and their backslidings are increased. How shall I pardon thee for this? Thy children have forsaken me, and sworn by them that are no gods, when I had fed them to the full. They then committed adultery and assembled themselves by troops in the harlots' houses. Troops is the armies. The harlots' houses is likely the synagogue or the government offices or the basis of the government, or I don't know, something like that. Because they serve other spirits, unclean spirits. They were as fed horses in the morning, every one neighing after his neighbor's wife. This is Israel today. They're all doing this, going after the other guy's wife. And they got wife swapping and everything else. Shall I not visit for these things, saith Jehovah? And shall not my soul be avenged on such a nation as this? Go you up upon her walls and destroy, but make not a full end. Take away her battlements, for they are not the Lord's. Now, what is a battlement? Nitesha. Battlements would be the weapons, the planes, the tanks, the artillery, that kind of thing, missiles. Because they're relying on their own self. They're like survivalists in a way. They're relying on their own army with the stuff they got from the heathen corporations and the heathen nations, the military weapons. There'll be no deliverance through this. See, what a lot of you may not understand because you're not used to having wars is during big wars, one of the biggest danger is running out of bullets, bombs, rockets, missiles, tanks, jeeps, airplanes, helicopters, bombs, everything, gasoline, fuel. And they need food for the military too. For the house of Israel and the house of Judah have dealt very treacherously against me, saith the Lord. Now this is a throwback to the past, of course, because it says house of Israel, who's not here now. They have belied the Lord and said, it is not he, neither shall evil come upon us, neither shall we see sword nor famine. Well, in Israel, they know they're going to see sword because they're seeing it every day. So there's not a lot of relevance to that for right now. And the prophets shall become wind, and the word is not them. Thus shall it be done unto them. So, your rabbis are false prophets. They have plenty of those. And the churches have tons of false prophets. Wherefore, whenever you see these people on social media revealing their dreams, you're talking to a false prophet. That's who they are. Wherefore, thus say, they're saying the Lord showed them a dream about what's going to happen in the future. And, you assume it's not right. If their doctrine is wrong, God's not doing signs and wonders for them. Wherefore, thus saith Adonai Yehovah Elohim, of armies, because you speak this word, behold, I will make my words in thy mouth fire, and this people wood, and it shall devour them. So let's read that. Because you speak this word, because of your false prophecies and your false teachings, behold, I will make my words in thy mouth fire, and this people wood, and it shall devour them. Okay. Where do we see this happening? Zechariah 12:6. In that day will I make the judges of Judah like an earth of fire among the wood, and like a torch of fire in a sheaf. And they shall devour all the people round about, on the right hand and on the left, and Jerusalem shall remain still in her own place. You see it now? Now, this type of teaching emanating forth from the church has never happened. They don't understand any of this, and if they did, they wouldn't teach it to you. They're just not going to do it. Their boss is the father of lies, And he doesn't have his churches set up to teach people truth. Jeremiah 5:15. Lo, I will bring a nation upon you from far. O house of Israel, saith Adonai. It saith Jehovah. It is a mighty nation. It is an ancient nation. A nation whose language thou knowest not, neither understandeth what they say. Their quiver is as an open sepulchre, open grave, or burial place. They are all mighty men, and they shall eat up thy harvest and thy bread, which thy sons and thy daughters should eat. They shall eat up thy flocks and thy herds. They shall eat up thy vines and thy fig trees. They shall impoverish thy fenced cities where thou trusted with the sword. Fenced cities where they trusted in the sword. Now, I don't believe that in our time now we're going to see them come and do these things. I think this was past fulfillment, because I don't read about it clearly in the scriptures. I don't see it by implication either. I see a siege, is what I see. Which is a surrounding, not an invasion. Nevertheless, in those days, saith Jehovah, I will not make a full end with you. Now that's the words used in Jeremiah 30:11. And it shall come to pass, when you shall say, wherefore doeth the Lord our God all these things unto us, then thou shalt answer them, like as ye have forsaken me, and served strange gods in your land, so shall you serve strange gods, strangers in a land that is not yours. Now, this is not Jacob's trouble, okay? It happened in the past, and it will happen in the future at Gog and Magog, but it's not for now. Declare this in the house of Yaakov, and publish it in Judah, saying, hear now this, O foolish people, and without understanding, which have eyes and see not, which have ears and hear not. Fear you not me, saith Jehovah. Will you not tremble at my presence, which have placed the sand for the bound of the sea, and a perpetual decree that it cannot pass it? And though the waves thereof toss themselves, yet can they not prevail. Though they roar, yet can they not pass over it. But this people hath a revolting and a rebellious heart. They are revolted and gone. 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 This could be the ones that are following the Talmud and the Kabbalah. Neither say they in their heart, let us now fear the Lord Jehovah Elohim, that giveth rain both the former and the latter in his season. He reserveth unto us the appointed weeks of the harvest. Your lawlessness or iniquity, they say, have turned away these things, and your sins at withholding good things from you. Because of the sins, they don't have a good life. For among my people are found wicked men. Now, this is Israel today. They lay wait as he that seeth snares. They set a trap. They catch men. As the cage is full of birds, now birds often represent demons. Not every time. A dove doesn't represent a demon, for instance. So are their houses full of deceit. Therefore they are become great. And the word for great is gadol. It means great or high. And waxes rich, because they're serving the unclean spirits. And that's why they're allowed into Satan's club, and the rich people from generation before them will do business with them, hire them, buy things from them, things like that. They won't do business with a true believer. It's against their religion. Jeremiah 5:28. They are waxed fat, they shine, yea, they overpass the deeds of the wicked, they judge not the cause of the fatherless, yet they prosper, and the right of the needy do they not judge. Shall I not visit? For these things saith Jehovah, shall not my soul be avenged on such a nation as this? A wonderful and a horrible thing is committed in Haaretz, the land of Israel. The prophets prophesy falsely, and the priests bear rule by their means. Well, we have two ultra-Orthodox political parties that have a combined 15 seats out of 120 in the Knesset, and they steer Netanyahu. So they're ruling through the government, through this democracy. And my people love to have it so. Well, they vote for this idiot democracy. And what will you do in the end thereof? Well, 2/3 will get cut off. Let me peek into the chat and see if I got to throw the garbage out. Belgium, okay. All these people that mock me, I block them because they're not here to learn. They're here to mock. They hate God. They hate us. don't know who Master Roshi is. It doesn't sound like a nice post. I'm not going to block you. I'm taking it off. You can't hear me very well. Well, if there was something wrong with it on my end, there'd be 10 or 15 people saying they can't hear me. All right, I threw the garbage out. All right. Now, if you guys are interested in catching my live stream updates that happen when there's so-called emergency events concerning Israel, make sure you're subscribed and click the notification bell so you'll get a notice that something big has happened. I don't normally do those. I just typically do those when something really big happens. And also it'd be helpful if you hit the thumbs up. It helps with the algorithm with YouTube, and that takes you, about a second to do it. It's not a big deal. Hang on a second. Let's see what this is about. Nothing. Wait. There are some toss and prayer requests. I just got reminded. Let me find them. Okay, we have a toss request for two people. The first one's initials are E.M. Edward Mike. E.M. Edward Mike. Toss. Next one is N.M. Nancy Mike. N.M. Nancy Mike. Toss. N.M. Nancy Mike. Toss. The next is a prayer request for healing for E.S. Edward Sam. E.S. Edward Sam healing. E.S. Edward Sam healing. Okay? All right. Now I got those done. Take that off. Okay. Now, when we go to Jeremiah 46, 27, and 28, we see basically Jeremiah 30, verse 11 all over again. I'll read you verses 27 and 48. But fear not, thou, O my servant Yaakov. See, now those are the ones that are serving the Lord from Israel. And be not dismayed, O Israel, for behold, I will save thee. See, I will save thee from afar means the second Exodus. Well, it's really more like, the next Exodus, because there's been several Exoduses. Okay? One from Egypt, one from Babylon, another one in 1948, or you could even say back to 1917, the Balfour Declaration, then another one in 48. So it's the next upcoming Exodus. To say second Exodus, it's not, there's no scripture designation of something called second Exodus. Okay. Behold, I will save thee from afar off, and thy seed from the land of their captivity, and Yaakov shall return, and be in rest and at ease, and none shall make him afraid. Well, you see, all the Israelites come out from the nations for the Lord's name's sake. Okay? And they don't all make it to Israel. We go to Jeremiah 20, verse 33. As I live, saith Adonai Jehovah, surely with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out will I rule over you. I believe he's speaking to Israel. And I will bring you out from the people and will gather you out of the countries wherein ye are scattered, with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out. So he says it twice. So it's very likely that the nations don't want to let the Israelites go, which was the same story in Egypt and the same story in Babylon. Okay? And I will bring you into the wilderness of the people, and there will I plead with you face to face. So they're out of their countries and they're in the wilderness somewhere. We don't specifically are not told where. Like as I pleaded with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Egypt, so will I plead with you, saith Adonai Jehovah, and I will cause you to pass under the rod. Now, the shepherd uses the rod when he opens up the sheep pen or the sheep gate, and he holds the rod and he watches who goes in under the rod, and he doesn't let goats in or other animals, okay, like wolves or anything, coyotes. He just wants his sheep, no horses or anything. Okay, so I will cause you to pass under the rod, and I will bring you into the bond of the covenant. Now, the ones that get picked off passing under the rod is the next verse, verse 38. And I will purge out from among you the rebels, and them that transgress against me, I will bring them forth out of the country where they sojourn, and they shall not enter into the land of Israel, and you shall know that I am Jehovah. Well, there's a lot of people serving the unclean spirits that come from Israelite flesh. And for his name's sake, he will take them out of the countries they're in to the wilderness. And they generally are in love with the unclean spirits. They're that deceived. And they will try to turn the people against Jehovah, turn against Jehovah. They will continue to do their evil ways, thinking they're so smart, and they die in the wilderness. So they take a dirt nap in the desert, you might say, or the swamp, or whatever it is, okay? Or just the earth. It could be anything, I don't have any knowledge that it would be a swamp. I don't see that. Wilderness would probably be a desert or something like that. As for you, O house of Israel, well, the word wilderness could wilderness is midbar. Let's see what Strong's puts it into English as. Open field, driving pasture, where cattle are driven. It implies a desert, but it's not a direct pointing at a desert. It's implied, so it could be just wooded areas or something, forests. So they don't make it into Israel. As for you, O house of Israel, saith Adonai Jehovah, go you, serve you, every one his idols, and hereafter also, if you will not hearken unto me, but pollute you not my holy name no more with your gifts and with your idols. So, for in my holy mountain in the mountain of the height of Israel. That's not here yet. I assume God puts Mount Zion back. And the next temple will be there. He puts it there, and it's not New Jerusalem. There shall all the house of Israel, all of them in the land, serve me. There will I accept them. So where does God accept you? In Israel. And there will I require your offerings and the first fruits of your oblations with all your holy things. So this is, of course, opposite what the church teaches, that the law is done away with. I will accept you with your sweet Savior when I bring you out from the people and gather you out of the countries wherein you have been scattered, and I will be sanctified in you before the heathen. You see, Yeshua brought in grace because he knew that when he got killed by the Israelis with the Romans' help, that Israel was going to go into a 2,000-year punishment found in Hosea 6:1 and 2, and there would be no temple, no offerings. So the age of grace set in. Okay? So if you were relying on the law, the age of grace would have no bearing on you. If you were relying on Yeshua and faith, then you would not have to worry about not doing the sacrifices and the offerings required in the law. Okay? That's in a nutshell. But it comes back when we have the next temple and we have the priests and everything. It comes back. It's not done away with. Yeshua said in Matthew 5, don't think I came to destroy the law or the prophets. Now the church tells you destroyed the law, but not the prophets. That's rather inconsistent. But to fulfill. The next verse, for as long as there's a heaven and an earth, not one jot or tittle shall be done away with from the law. So there you have it. You have no basis, as long as there's a heaven and an earth, to say there's no more law. And verse 42 of Ezekiel 20, and you shall know that I am Jehovah when I shall bring you into the land of Israel, into the country for which I lifted up my hand to give it to your fathers. And there shall you remember your ways and all your doings wherein you have been defiled. And you shall loathe yourselves in your own sight for all your evils that ye have committed. And you shall know that I am Jehovah when I have wrought with you for my name's sake, and not according to your wicked ways, nor according to your corrupt doings. O you house of Israel, saith Adonai Jehovah. Okay, so that gives you a decent picture of the second Exodus. You could read Jeremiah 16 and 17. I think it's 16. It might be 17. And Jeremiah 23 and get a bigger, more elaborate picture of it. Okay, it'll enhance. All right. Now, let's get back into it. So I'm going to try to show you, give you a good idea of what's going to happen in the next weeks, days and weeks, not years. Let's read Nahum chapter 1. Nahum. He's between Micah and Habakkuk. Whoops, I got in the wrong chapter. Okay. The burden of Nineveh, which is like in Iraq, with the old Babylon. The book of the vision of Nahum the Elkoshite. God is jealous and Jehovah revengeth and is furious. Jehovah will take vengeance on his adversaries, and he reserveth wrath for his enemies. Now, Jehovah is the same forever. He changes not. So this is still the case. Jehovah is slow to anger and great in power, and he will not at all acquit the wicked. Jehovah hath his way in the whirlwind, and in the storm, and in the clouds. And the clouds are the dust of his feet. He rebuketh the sea, and maketh dry, and drieth up all the rivers. Bashan languisheth, and Carmel and the flower of Lebanon languisheth. It's Lebanon, huh? Carmel is a mountain kind of sort of near Haifa. On the way from Tiberias to Haifa, you go by it on the left. The mountains quake at him, and the hills melt, and the earth is burned at his presence. Yea, the world and all that dwell therein. Who can stand before his anger, his indignation, his anger? And who can abide in the fierceness of his anger? His fury is poured out like fire, and the rocks are thrown down by him. Earthquakes, I guess. Jehovah is good, a stronghold in the day of trouble, and he knoweth them that trusteth in him. See, the country of Israel at large, let's say 2/3 of them, is a rough guess, are trusting in the jets and the tanks and the artillery. You see, they don't believe Jehovah's going to do anything one way or the other. They don't fear Jehovah, and they sin. But with an overrunning flood, he will make an utter end of the place thereof, and darkness shall pursue his enemy. Well, an overrunning flood is frequently, the flood means people, like in armies, and darkness shall pursue the enemies. Well, where do we read this? Isaiah 60, verse 1. Arise, shine, for thy light is come, and the glory of Jehovah is risen upon thee. For behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and the gross darkness the people. But Jehovah shall arise upon thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee. Okay. The Lord is slow to anger and great in power, and he will not at all acquit, not judge the wicked. Jehovah hath his way in the whirlwind and in the storm, and the clouds are the dust of his feet. It's like Jeremiah 5, I think. He rebuked the sea and maketh dry, and drieth up the rivers. Well, let me get to where I want to go here. Who can stand before his indignation, and who can abide in the fierceness of his anger? His fury is poured out like fire, and the rocks are thrown down. Jehovah is good, a stronghold in the day of trouble, and he knoweth them that trust in him. But with an overrunning flood, he will make an utter end of the place thereof, and darkness shall pursue his enemies. Now, the word for place is Macom, wait a minute, Mikmam. An utter end of the place thereof, and darkness shall pursue his enemies. I don't know if the place means Israel or not. I don't think so. What do you imagine against Jehovah? He will make an utter end. Affliction shall not rise up the second time. See, he's wiping them out. The whole UN and all that kind of stuff. It's going, you know. For while they be, it's the nations he scattered the Israelites into, which most of the UN is that. There's very few nations that are not in this, you know. I don't have an exact count, though. I'm pretty sure it's considerably over 100 nations that he scattered the Israelites into. For while they be folded together as thorns, and while they are drunken as drunkards, they shall be devoured as stubble fully dried, burnt up. There is one come out of thee that imagineth evil against Jehovah, a wicked counselor. Thus saith Jehovah, so, though they be quiet and likewise many, yet thus shall they be cut down when he shall pass through. Though I have afflicted thee, I will afflict thee not, I will afflict thee no more. See, that's our day when it happens. For now will I break his yoke from off thee, and will burst thy bonds under. And Jehovah hath given a commandment concerning thee, that no more of thy name be sown out of the house of thy gods. Will I cut off the graven images and the molten image, and I will make thy grave, for thou art vile. Nahum 1:15. Behold, upon the mountains the feet of him that bringeth good tidings, that publisheth peace. O Judah, keep thy solemn feasts. That's the law, the one the church says is done away with. Perform thy vows, for the wicked shall no more pass through thee. He is utterly cut off. See, blessed are the feet of those that bring good news. It's again, you know, for us these days. Okay? I'm going to look at the chat, see if I'm getting questions, which I do take questions and I do try to answer them as long as they're on point. Okay. Let me get back on my notes. I'm going to take a quick break, very quick. I'll be right back. And then we're going to get into the current events with Iran and try to fit it all together with the prophecy scriptures, which is not hard. I've already done it, I think. But we'll go over it. So who are the enemies of Israel now? Well, all the ones that want to see a two-state solution where we give the West Bank back and East Jerusalem and go to a pre-1967 border, the West Bank would just be turned into another Gaza to attack us. That's it. The ones that are telling us to get out of Gaza and leave Hamas there to kill us again another day, they're the enemies of Israel. The ones that want a Palestinian state on the land of Israel, they're our enemies. And the ones that are attacking us and threatening to kill us are our enemies. Is America one of them? Yes. aside from being the daughter of Babylon, she pressured us to give the Sinai Peninsula back. I think it was Clinton that did that. Then we got pressured in 2008, I believe it was Bush, to give Gaza back. Look how that turned out. And since then, every president that the country's had has been pressuring us to give the West Bank back. They're afraid to attack Israel directly because they know nations tried this in 1948 and following in many years, several times, and they always lost. So they don't want to see that happen again with them. So they take the Muslims, which I don't care about, and Satan has them in some kind of psyched up religion to kill us, these terrorist-oriented ones anyway. And they dedicate their whole existence on earth to killing us. And that's Satan. He wants to stop end times. He doesn't want to see a temple, all this. So, the scripture not only says the enemies of Israel are going to go, but all the nations that he scattered Israel into in the past are going to go because of the way they treated Israel. See, in Zechariah, is it 1? I'll find it. He explains this to us. The Bible does. In Zechariah 1 verse 13, and Jehovah answered the angel that talked with me with good words and comfortable words. That's how the North American Indians talk, isn't it? Lost tribes. Lost tribes. So the angel that communed with me said unto me, Cry thou, saying, Thus saith Jehovah of armies, I am jealous for Jerusalem and for Zion, with a great jealousy. That's good. That's a comfortable word. And I am very sore displeased. It doesn't say that. It says, I am very gadol, very largely, katsaf, angry. Wrath and anger. So he has a great anger and wrath. With who? With the heathen that are at ease. Well, their countries aren't taking rockets and missiles, and women aren't getting raped and all of that yet. Yet, I'm very sore displeased with the heathen that are at ease, for I was but a little displeased, speaking of towards Israel, and they helped forward the affliction. Therefore, thus saith Jehovah, I am returned to Jerusalem with mercies. My house shall be, it means established more than built, I think. It shall be established in it, saith Jehovah of hosts. Or it could be built, but he doesn't say who built it, he does. And a line shall be stretched forth upon Jerusalem. Cry yet, saying, Thus saith Jehovah of armies, my cities through prosperity shall yet be spread abroad, and the Lord shall yet comfort Zion, and shall yet choose Jerusalem through prosperity. We're all going to be very rich. Then lifted I up mine eyes and saw, and beheld 4 horns. And I said unto an angel that talked with me, What be these? And he answered me and said, These are the horns which have scattered Judah and Israel. So it has to go as a throwback to the past when Israel was here, and Jerusalem. And Jehovah showed me 4 carpenters or workmen. And then said I, What come these to do? And he spake, saying, These are the horns which have scattered Judah. Now he's referencing just these days, more modern days when there's only a Judah, so that no man did lift up his head. Now the word for scattered doesn't mean scattered only. Let's see how Strong's treats it. To toss about, to winnow or fan, in other words, to separate the rich from the poor, the good from the bad, and their idea of good are the Satan bots. They have scattered Judah so that no man did lift up his head. See, that's not consistent with the diaspora. That's more like living here today and being oppressed by the governments and the rabbis and all of them, right? So that no man did lift up his head, but these are come to fray them, to terrify them, to cast out the horns of the heathen, which lifted up their horn over the land of Judah to scatter it. The horn is what the animal fights with. This probably means they're going to run out of weapons or something. I don't know. Maybe the 2 witnesses as a plague will deactivate their weapons. It could happen. If they could bring millions and millions of frogs on the Egyptians, can definitely deactivate the weapons, their power, their combustible engines, or whatever. Okay? I want to mention this to you, Matthew 16, verse 3 and 4. This is important, but many of you it'll go over your head, and there's nothing I can do about that. And in the morning, Matthew 16, verse 3, and in the morning it will be foul weather. Today, for the sky is red and lowering, O you hypocrites, you can discern the face of the sky, but can you not discern the signs of the times? You see, the whole church world can't discern. The 2 billion people in the Catholics, evangelical, nominal, Pentecostal, they all can't discern it. But you can. Why are you receiving this? Well, you read it to the Jew first and then the Goyim, being the 10 tribes. So you're either the Jew who gets it first in these days, or the Jew got it first in the last days, or in the last time when Yeshua was here, and then you would be the Goyim, the 10 tribes, to make them jealous. But I've covered that with you many times. But why is God having me teach the true gospel on the internet without the signs and wonders? When we know the signs and wonders will be coming, because blessed are the feet of those that on the mountains with the good news, with the true gospel. And that's what I discern you guys are. Okay. Now, why is it being done without the signs and wonders? Matthew 16:4. A wicked and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign, and there shall no sign be given unto it, but the sign of the prophet Jonah. And he left them and departed. That was a closing statement that was rather abrupt from Yeshua. Now, he was doing signs and wonders to draw the people in, but he wasn't raising them, the people in general, to be blessed are the feet of those that bring good tidings, that bring the true gospel, the good news. He was reaching the people at large. And he had special training for the disciples, the apostles to be, where he separated himself unto them and worked with them privately. Some of this is depicted in the Gospels, and I'm sure much of it is not. So if I was spreading the gospel with all kinds of signs and wonders, it would be attracting all sorts of people, many of whom come for the signs and wonders. Now, let me explain to you why later on, years down the road, the unclean spirit serving people, the beast and then the false prophet are going to do signs and wonders, because there'll be all kinds of signs and wonders with the true believers, and many will flock to them because they're an evil and adulterous and wicked generation, and they chase the signs and wonders. They'll be resentful and not enjoy the true gospel, the law. They're not going to like it. It's going to go against their grain, so to speak. But they may go along with it because they'll keep telling themselves those signs and wonders. Now along comes the wicked with signs and wonders, and then they say, oh, they do the sign. Let me go check them out. Oh, I like their doctrine better. They got signs and wonders too. Their God must be the true God. I like that better, you see. Now, we're not in the times of just drawing anybody and everybody to hear the truth and using signs and wonders to do it. That will happen. Okay? And that's why you see it falling away in Gog and Magog. Okay? Right now, he's equipping the people that have the true gospel, fishers and hunters, if you will, to work with it. Okay? To whom much is given, much is required. You'll have your jobs ahead of you, because you could discern the times and put the pieces together. How many people in the world, 8 or 9 billion, could do that? A very, very minuscule amount. Not even 1,000th of 1%, maybe 1,000,000th of 1% or something like that, or less even. God doesn't work with big numbers. Gideon had 300? No. Yeshua had the 12, and then he sent the 70 out. That's 82. It's not a big number, guys. It's not a big number. Yeshua healed all who came to him. He didn't check them out to see what doctrine they had and if they believed in this and that. And he didn't bother with that. He just, yeah, heal you. They came to him in faith to get healed. He healed them. That didn't make him the Messiah. And people didn't understand Isaiah 53 very much. The disciples did. And doing the healing, and that was, raising the dead, walking on water, the fig tree cursing, and many things like he did, turning the water to wine and all that, wouldn't by itself make him the Messiah, the Son of God, to rise from the dead and seated at the right hand of God the Father until he makes his enemies his footstool. Then he returns to earth in power and glory on a white horse with the angels of heaven on white horses, and the beast and the false prophet are thrown in the lake of fire, and New Jerusalem comes down, and we have our Shabbat rest for 1,000 years. Seventh day, Shabbat, allegorically. So, Iran may start the Zechariah 12 siege. They might say, well, we just got to gather together and get rid of Israel. And then Turkey joins in, and Iraq, and Syria, and this country, and that country, and they just build. It'll take a month or two. They build a big army, and they start laying siege to us. And America will be inside Israel, according to Jeremiah 50:51. Biden will send troops in here to stop the wars in Gaza and possibly to harass us in the West Bank and support the Palestinian terrorists in the West Bank. But there's troops in Israel, and that temporary, as they call it, landing platform or pier he's putting up is going to start with humanitarian aid, but it's stupid. They don't need that for humanitarian aid. It's going to go to troops to enforce ceasefires, etc. in Gaza. They'll land the troops directly into Gaza, so Israel can't do anything. So they're going to protect Hamas to kill Israel, because that's what their God, Satan, wants them to do, is kill Israel, or at least make sure Israel has no control over East Jerusalem and the West Bank. Now, we know Jordan is going to cause us a lot of trouble, probably in the West Bank. Okay? Can Netanyahu put Biden in a war with Iran? He might be able to. See, I told you a long time ago, before the war started, that if Netanyahu can't change the laws to get out of his 3 criminal cases, which could be potentially at the high side 16 years in jail, and he's way too old to survive that, plus financial destruction, that he would destroy Israel before he let that happen. And that doesn't mean God's going to let him do that, of course, but he may try it, and that's why he's provoking Iran. But it's not a great fit, because he could provoke Iran many ways in addition to what he already did, and he's not doing it. So, I think he's trying to put America and Iran into a fight. He thinks that America is not in a position to ignore or walk away from Israel if this is something like Iran going after it. See, in America, Iran is an extremely unpopular entity. And the fact that since October 7th, they keep attacking American bases in Iraq and Syria and American embassies and consulates, it would be rather impossible for Biden to sell the American public on the goodness of Iran. I don't think anybody would buy it. So Biden doesn't want to see a war anywhere. He's afraid he gets bogged down. He's afraid to get bogged down with the Houthis, and he's been relatively ineffective. in stopping the Houthis. They're still tagging ships. I mean, he's cut down the amount of hits the Houthis get, but they're still getting hits on ships. You know. He's afraid if he gets into the Middle East big time and gets bogged down, well, then China may unleash on Taiwan and North Korea on South Korea and China on the Philippines, and Japan gets into it and they get attacked, and China and North Korea, and then Russia and Belarus hit Poland, Romania, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Finland, Denmark, Norway. And to do this comfortably, they need to see America weakened. So if America, see, and these countries, China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, and to a lesser extent, you know, Venezuela and Cuba, they need to get America weakened or kaput quickly, because they're afraid if Biden loses the next election, they have no concept of prophecy timing. If Biden loses the next election, Trump gets in, Trump will be a much more intelligent, formidable foe than what they're used to now. So they don't want to see that. So they have a time fuse to get rid of America. And that time fuse is probably before the elections in November. And they are probably very nervous now because they can't put a good handle on what this derelict Biden might and might not do. China's very timid, and they're not gonna. They can take Taiwan out in a day, and they know that. And China with North Korea can easily handle Taiwan, Japan, and South Korea. They can handle it. They're not worried. The war's not going to be on their home turf. It'll be on these other countries, and they know that. And they can handle it. But they can't handle that and America at the same time. Okay? So what all roads lead to is it's going to be like multiple events. America's already been invaded with these, what they call immigrants that file for asylum and get a date in 2032, and then they become legal, although when they cross in, they're illegal, they become legal. And they're 70% male. And those are your sleeper agents, and they're already in America. And in America, it's very easy to make explosive ingredients, to build rockets, to have guns. They can have guns apparently now. Some have even joined police departments, which is the theater of the absurd. So Biden is a full-blown lunatic to do this. He didn't do it for the sleeper agents to overthrow America. He did it to get them to vote for him. Of course, there's bills in Congress that haven't been approved, that haven't been voted on yet, to allow these asylum seekers the right to vote. Usually they leave it up to the state, so if the state allows it, that goes on. And then, of course, welfare state Biden, open border Biden, is going to bribe them with all kinds of, money and help and assistance and stuff like that. So they'll vote for him so he can pick up, maybe as many as 5 or 6 million votes. Not everybody votes. You have to be, of age, and you can't be, well, that's it. You just have to be of age. So children are not eligible. He may even get, because he's a draft age, they're mostly, he may get 8 or 9 million votes. That's a help. That's a big help. But they're controlled by different countries. I would say Iran has influence from Muslim Middle East terrorists that are there. China has Chinese, and Russia would have Russians in there. Cuba probably has a few, Venezuela a few, North Korea maybe has none because his people are so culturally kaput and language barrier problems. I don't think he has very many, if any. And the drug cartel's got people there and all of that, so it's ready to go. Somebody pulls the trigger on that, it's going to be a mess. And that takes us, also to ruler fighting ruler in America, which it looks like the Texas governor is fulfilling now, and it could grow. And it has grown some, but that could get bigger. And then you'll see the calls for the Exodus and the okay, so let's watch Iran carefully. I'll do that. But let's not give too much credit to Iran either, because they're just a big mouth. Okay? Nor let's give too much credit to Hezbollah. Look how Hamas got demolished. Look how nobody came to help Hamas. Year of recompenses. They got their payback on. Hezbollah and the Houthis in Iran and the militias in Syria and Iraq, they're all going to get it. And don't think that just because we're close to August 1st, that it can't happen fast, because it's going to happen fast. And the war with Lebanon looks like it's on. The war with Gaza's not stopping. That's not the case, okay? They're going to go back in there. They're trying to persuade Hamas to do a ceasefire. Netanyahu wants some hostages back anyway to help his popularity and stop the demonstrations. Okay, let me see if I have any questions. That doesn't take long. I do answer questions. My email address is there too. If you want to email me with questions, I can try to help you. I'm not much of a counselor because I'm not with you. I don't know you face to face, know the other people concerning in your life. And so I'm not real good as a counselor. They said they were sending about 42,000 to Tennessee to work at the Tyson chicken plant. I don't know who the 42,000 people are. I don't know what that is. Are they military? Are they illegals? Probably illegals. Yeah, I could see them doing that, you know. I could see them doing that. See, if the sleeper agents are going to get unleashed, in my opinion, they're going to. There's a few things they could do. One is they could attack the military bases and probably prevail, because they're poorly defended. The second thing they could do is start causing all kinds of turmoil in cities, looting, pillaging, raping, beating, everything. You know, carjacking, fires, murders, home invasions, and draw the military to numerous cities to try to restore order, which keeps the military very disjointed, and that makes America more vulnerable for an attack. All right. So, I want to thank you guys for the offerings. You're the ones that carry it for the others. And, hey, I want to make sure from my notes that I didn't miss something. I think I might have missed something. Hold on a minute. I don't want to do that. Don't think that America's going to come coddle Israel and be Israel's friend and buddy. Bible prophecy says no. There might be a deception to try to make it look that way, but in reality, anything like that happening will go against Bible prophecy. So don't think that is going to be the case. I highly doubt it. Okay, yeah, Revelation 6. This is what I was supposed to point out to you. And I did it before, I'm going to do it again. Revelation 6, just give you. It's to keep you on the right track so you don't start going off into churchianity, crackpot doctrines or something. Revelation 6:1. And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals. The lamb is Yeshua, obviously. The lamb is the peace offering. The sin offering is a steer. He was the peace offering, probably sacrificed, probably died at the time of the peace offering. And I'm guessing on that one. And, you know, you never read, behold, the steer of God. You know, but to have peace with God, the sins would have to be covered up too, taken away. And he did that. One of the seals, and I heard as it were the noise of thunder, one of the four beasts, saying, Come and see. And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, that's a war implement, and a crown, and was given unto him, and a crown was given unto him. And he went forth conquering and to conquer. Now, I would think this represents Yeshua right after Zechariah 12:10, because he's given a crown. Okay? Which is Israel. He's now running Israel. Although he's seated at the right hand of his Father in heaven, he's the King of Israel. He's running Israel because they're restored to him. He appeared in the clouds, and they saw him, and they got eternal life, and they're serving him, and that's why he has one crown. And then from this would be the beginning when they see him and get changed and have eternal life. In Zechariah 12, verse 10, combined with John 6, verse 40, you'll get the idea. Then it starts the second 70 of Daniel 9, which culminates when Yeshua returns with New Jerusalem and the beast and false prophet thrown in the lake of fire, which is Revelation 19. Now, we'll go to Revelation 19. Oh, we'll pick it up, I don't know, verse 5. And a voice came out of the throne saying, Praise our God, all you his servants, and you that fear him, both small and great. And I heard, as it were the voice of a great multitude, and as the voice of many waters, as the voice of mighty thundering, saying, Hallelujah, for the Lord God omnipotent reigneth. Let us be glad and rejoice and give honor to him, for the marriage of the Lamb is come, and his wife hath made herself ready. And to her was granted that she should be arrayed in fine linen, clean and white, for the fine linen is the righteousness of the saints. And he saith unto me, Right blessed are they which are called unto the marriage supper of the Lamb. And he saith unto me, These are the true sayings of God. You see, you're married to the land like Israel. That's how allegorically it's referenced in prophecy. New Jerusalem, our new abode, will be married to it as similar to the land. Okay. And I fell at his feet to worship him, and he said unto me, See thou do it not. I am thy fellow servants and of thy brethren that have the testimony of Yeshua. Worship God, for the testimony of Yeshua is the spirit of prophecy. The testimony of Yeshua is the spirit of prophecy. Now what happened here? Hold on. This thing started acting. Oh, okay, I get it back. Now what happened? There it is. And I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse, that's the white horse, and he that sat upon him called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he doth judge and make war. So he judges and makes war in righteousness, like we read about in Revelation 6. His eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns, and he had a name written that no man knew but he himself, and he was clothed in a vesture dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of God. That's Yeshua, the Word made flesh. And the armies which were in heaven followed him upon white horses, clothed in fine linen, white and clean. Okay, so I don't know how many angels there are in heaven. I say it's in the millions. So millions of them came down with him. Millions. All on white horses. Come on, that's not Zechariah 12 when he appears in the clouds, seated on the right hand of power, which is his Father, like the lightning from the east to the west. That's not the second coming. And Revelation 6 shows us that this starts after Zechariah 12. We get the land back, and now everybody in Israel is serving Yeshua. So he has a crown for Israel. When he comes back, at the end of the 70, that's the start of the second 70. When he comes back at the end of the second 70, he has many crowns because he conquered many nations. The double-edged sword is the word of God that comes out of the mouth. That's what conquers them. Because after Zechariah 12 happens, Jacob's trouble is over, the word will go forth around the world, not any old word like the churches, Schofield and Darby. No, the true word of the Lord, not the schmuck word from the churches, okay? The real gospel, okay? And that will spiritually slay people, bring them to repentance, and they will serve the Lord. And they will be sons of God, and they will live in paradise, in heaven, down the road. So the best thing for the world is for Israel to be serving Jehovah and Yeshua HaMashiach, and God running the world through Israel, and Israel spreading the gospel and keeping the wars away and all of that stuff. Okay? Now it's another scripture that'll help you separate the lies from the truth. And I wrote it down, I'll find it. I got it. Ezekiel 38:8. Oh, the chief is having such hard work sleeping, He's in front of the heater and it gets too hot and too cold. Oh, it's such a hard life. Oh. After many days, thou shalt be visited in the latter years. Thou shalt come into the land that is brought back from the sword and is gathered out of many people against the mountains of Israel, which have been always waste, but it is brought forth out of the heathen nations, and they shall dwell safely, all of them. Brought back from the sword is what? They shall beat their swords, SWORDS, into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. That's the peace. And certainly not today. We're not rich, we don't have gold and silver, we don't have much cattle, we're not living in peace without walls and bars. So these jackasses that try to convince you we're in Gog and Magog or will very shortly be in Gog don't know the first thing about prophecy. I have never seen a single churchianity jackass preach that Daniel 9:24 says 70, not 70 weeks. And all these commentators dissect all the Hebrew words all over the place. They know it. They're with Satan. They're not going to tell you. They're serving the father of lies, and they're going to lie. And that's it. That's their grain. That's what they do. Okay? The tares and the wheat. The tares are the children of the devil, Matthew 15. That's who they are, and stop denying it. They're not lost, the leaders of these churches, they're not lost, they're not confused. They're serving the devil, and they're trying to keep you lost and you confused. And that's one of the things I kick against heavily. So please pray for me and my wife Rivka for our peace, safety, protection, joy, healing of our bodies. Pray for our peace and joy and finances, and pray for our animals and pets that are all rescues to be happy, healthy, and whole. And do pray for better videos. Today came out pretty good. I think I gave you some good overviews of a lot of things. It should keep you on the track and help you stay rooted onto that track much better. When the winds blow and you're going around the steep mountain turns on your railroad track, I'm using that analogy, you'll stay on the track. Even though the wind's blowing, the snow and the hail and the all this stuff and you're going down steep turns like a roller coaster, you're going to stay on the track. Okay? And I am seeing an uptick in earthquakes. The Richter scale numbers are going up some, but not just a little. They're going up noticeably. And New York City and Jersey getting earthquakes, it never happens. Now they're getting them. New York will be San Francisco 1906 if they get earthquakes. There's a lot of buildings in New York that were built before 1906. I used to ride around in buildings that had steam elevators. You ever been on a steam-powered elevator? Man, they buckle your knees. It's like going to a roller coaster. They got an operator. He sits there on a flimsy little chair. And when you walk in, he says, floor please, and he pushes a button, and then he turns this handle. It goes like this. And you go, whoo! You know, when you get used to it, you're used to it. The worst elevator I ever went on was in Bank America building in San Francisco. There was a restaurant at the top I used to go to. It was a great restaurant and little private booths. So it was kind of like an intimate date. I was a young man then. I was single. And, I had a lot of money. I was in the world, not a lot, but I had money. You'd go up there, and then going up, you felt the pressure on your knees when the thing went up. I think it was about 80 floors. But when you went down, my gosh, it was like a roller coaster ride. Woo! Your stomach would be all the way up there and you go down, Boy, what an abrupt elevator, Now, I've been in a lot of buildings that are high in my life, and they have normal elevators, You don't have that whoo, like you're in an amusement park, It's like the Tower of Terror ride or something, the Bank America building. I imagine it's still like that today. I haven't been there in decades, but it's probably still like that today. That was the worst elevator I ever experienced, but these steam elevators in New York were pretty abrupt. But the buildings that had steam elevators were probably no more than 20, 23 stories. They didn't have great high-rise with steam, When they were using the steam, they didn't have really high buildings, The Empire State Building went up, I think, in 1934. That was, I think, 100 floors. I've been at the top of that. It's like you're in an airplane getting ready to land. I mean, you're really high up, You got to take a series of, I think, 3 different elevators to get up there. It's a pretty high building, but they've surpassed it. I think there's a building in the UAE, Dubai, that's probably like 150, 160 stories, 1.5 times or so the size of that, the height of that, And they missed the Tower of Babel, I think, But if people in New York that have apartments that are, well, Trump's about 60 or 80 floors up in Trump Tower. They have others that are that high too. So they're living in the sky. I don't know how well those buildings would be built with earthquakes. New York never was getting earthquakes. The whole time I lived there, my whole life, I never got an earthquake there. I don't know anybody who ever did. And they had one the other day. I had never heard of it. My grandparents, my parents, nobody ever told me about an earthquake there. Hurricanes would come into New York maybe every 25 years. I remember once I was a little kid. I was probably 7 or 8. And there was a hurricane coming in with 75-mile-an-hour winds. And my parents had me stay home. My father went to work. He drove to work. And they covered up some of the windows. And they had me sit in the hallway in the apartment that didn't have any windows, no access to windows. So if stuff blew in through the windows, it wouldn't affect me. I wouldn't get hit. And they had me sit there on the floor all day in the cold weather. They were so scared. They didn't know from hurricanes. They still don't really know. But a good earthquake and the subway system is going to go down. The elevated trains will probably go off the tracks and fall. And I'm not so sure people are going to get killed if they fall off on the subway car because it's only about 30 feet. And the subway cars are probably at least 30 feet long. So if they fall, the front will come down or the back will come down. So it's not going to be that much impact. They'll get busted up. But I'm not so sure very many people would get killed. Maybe some would. They just fall the wrong way. I don't know. See, they ride on a rail, a steel rail, and the wheels come down over one side of the rail. So it's really hard to derail them. You hardly ever hear them getting derailed. It's rare. It'd have to be a collision. But the elevated subways are built on huge, heavy steel girders. Huge things. Very thick, heavy steel. But they're 100, 140 years old, 130 years old. I don't know how good that steel is anymore. Let's talk about the concrete or the blacktop it's embedded in. How stable is that? Right? A good earthquake, the dirt sifts, and those pillars might come down. They had subways back in the 1800s, 1880s. They had them. You know, so these things are more than 100 years old. I don't know how good they are. And the subways themselves are the tracks above ground and below ground are made with wooden ties, and that wood's 100 plus years old. So the earthquake comes, and it could tilt. Now the subway train is stable if it stays like this, or if it goes like this, there's no stability anymore. It'll go off. And the cars that are in the subway under the ground on a flat track, it's not always so flat. They got elevations and they got turns, but anyway, they could get thrown off the track too as the ground shifts. It goes like this, and throw it off. Then you got 1 million people that can't go to work. You could get a tsunami, and that tsunami would just wash over Manhattan. We're out of the what, Well, we're seeing a lot of substantial earthquakes, but I think to really be major, they got to start getting up over 7.5, really over 8. When you start getting earthquakes in the 8s, it's pretty dangerous. The buildings in Japan, I heard, can take an 8 earthquake, even over an 8.3 maybe, I heard, something like that. Because they build them on rollers. They can take a pretty heavy-duty earthquake. But how many buildings are that way, I don't know. New York has a lot of buildings there that were built, in the Civil War era, pre-Civil War era. There's buildings that go back to, 1860, 1850, 1870. I don't know if they've ever been redone. They probably had to redo their elevator system and get rid of the steam for electric, but what else could they do? I have no idea. What are they going to do? They have to rip the building down and rebuild it. So could these old buildings take earthquakes? No, I think one of the reasons they built New York City up was it didn't get hurricanes, it didn't get twisters, tornadoes, it didn't get earthquakes. And that's the same why they did Washington, D.C. And Washington, D.C. was a little bit warmer than the Northeast, so it would get less snow. And it does typically get appreciable less snow, and the blizzards are normally less severe, and the weather's warmer, and the winters are shorter, and it doesn't get tornadoes or twisters, it doesn't get hurricanes, and it doesn't get earthquakes. So Washington, D.C. would fold just like New York because they got all these old historic buildings there and it would just cave in. We'll wait and watch. So I send my shalom to all those who love Father God Jehovah and his son Yeshua HaMashiach. And I'm 2.5 hours. I guess that's where I'm destined to be. So if you can, guys, it takes a second. Could you hit the like button? Only 14 people did it. I guess people don't like me. All right, I'm out. Thank you. Hope you got something out.